All right. Hi guys. Here is the vanishing point as we spoke about during our class, and this is the first thing that we want to do is we try to identify the flaw first. Get your perspective right. Okay, knowing your perspective, where does the whole leading line is going and where is the horizon. Like for instance here, there's a horizon, and where is this is pretty straightforward. All right, an alleyway straightforward where you can see all this uh, grid line is given to you, so you just have to click this and make sure the line is not in red color but blue color, not like, like that, right? So from here, after you have already created your plane, your floor, you are actually creating a tunnel. Let it make it simple, so it's layman terms by itself. Okay, what I'm doing is you're creating a tunnel, a fake tunnel, based on the image that you have already have. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick it up, I'm making it as simple as possible. So from here, the reason why we are building up from this is to ensure that everything is properly connected. Alright, so I'm going to click this and I'm just going to drag this over and join it. Make sure it is either joined or it's already, or it goes over the line. Okay, I'll just go that a little bit extra. Okay, from here on, once you have already created your ground and your tunnel example, okay, what it does, so vanishing point on what it gives you actually a fake imaginary 3D feel kind of from a photo image that you have already created. All right, so angles can be adjusted. As you can see here, you just have to click on this and you can just look at the grid size and so on and so forth. This is when you're creating something, then you have to start doing the adjustment of the angles. All right, so like for instance here, this is automatically given by Photoshop itself. Okay, so it gives you an angle close to accurate. What it does is, what Photoshop does is it creates a tunnel for you, and it will start to read from the uh, photo that you have already created. It will try to read from the ground, from this plane, and it will start to build the perspective. Right, so this is purposely for our, it's very powerful tool, but this is purposely now solely for our matte painting. So what does this vanishing point do? It's actually a helpful guide for you to create this tunnel view, that you are going to have this camera that is going passing through this when this perspective, that is going to follow this perspective to come to an end where this what they call this vanishing point is leading to. Alright, so once you have already created this, what happens next? Next is you can just click OK, or what you can do is you can just have this exported to vanishing point. But this is not complete yet. Why? Is because we haven't done anything much. So let's say if within this vanishing point, if here, see that once you open back again, sometimes it just goes grayed out. All right, so you have to reopen back so that all this grids is selected. So what it does is, based on this grid, all these walls, this grid, all right, it will reflect this make sure this, it will replicate this view, and then it will just reflect on this plane. You can name it as a plane. It's like texture mapping and so on and so forth. So what you do now is you can just go ahead and do some amendments if you want to, with all these tools that is given to you. Like for instance, you want to have like a measure marquee tool, you can choose this based on the grid. Okay, you can just hold alternate or command. You can just close this hole if you want to. All right, up to you. Okay, or you can, that is without owning the healing. If you on the healing, what it does is I will try to duplicate this particular image to put it in here. Okay, so with healing on, what it does is it doesn't destroy the original essence of the composition. Okay, so or the image by itself. So what it does is it will try to cover up as much as possible, and it will give you almost a blended feel. Like as you can see here, it will give you a nice blending instead of just having um, or you can just drag it over. Okay, make it slightly bigger if you want to, up to you. And what it does is it tries to cover up that hole and try to blend it as much as it can with the uh, marquee tool, and it just picks up the textures from here and replaces the original look of this image. Especially if you want to close this kind of holes and then you want to add another photograph or anything as such, you want to have like a sign or anything, you want to add different duplicates of stuff, you can just go ahead and do with marquee tool. Okay, the reason why I created a new layer so that I will always maintain my original view. Okay, now if I want to add more, so let's say if I want to add another one more layer, so what happens with this? You go back to your vanishing point, everything is still intact, right? We still have our vanishing point here. You can zoom out a little bit, right? So it's a little bit buggy with control and then zoom in, zoom out, but then again, you can always use this plus and minus tool here for zooming in, zooming out. This is a percentage, you all should know this is basic Photoshop. So let's say if I want to have this marquee tool, or if I use this stamp, what does a stamp do? A stamp is where it will, first you have to hold alternate, click once to indicate the selection that you want to select. You can pick the diameters as you can make it as big as possible, alright, and then you can start cloning this area. Okay, see that? I can click on this back and then I'll start doing my painting to cover up this and seamlessly blending it. Okay, so as you can see here, this is really rough, but if you want to do this with luminance on, or you can just do it with luminance if you want to do a soft light overlay. So what you can do is you can just pick all this, make sure the diameters is not as big as that. Okay, you just click on this once and then you start painting. See, what it does is it will leave the original image as it is, and it will try to blend in to make it more naturally evolved. Okay, of course this kind of image I'm just showing you as an example. You have to look for something that is really it blends well. You have to understand how the lines is, how the arrangement of these bricks and so on and so forth on this walls, so it doesn't give you this abrupt change all of a sudden, which is really easy to spot on. So that is depending on your grid, and it paints on the grid, and it depends on what kind of selection areas that you're looking at. Once you have done this, let's say I've already closed this area. Okay, and what you can do is you can just go back here and say OK, click on OK here. You can come back inside here, and you can also, you see, it retains the original look of this area. If let's say you want to have this, what you can do is you can go to burn tool and you can start burning it out a little bit. That completely depends on what you want to create and how the lighting is gonna affect the whole area. So if you have a burn tool, it gives you a dark spot, okay, maybe around here, so it kind of like, it makes sense. So maybe it's too hard. What you can do is you can reduce the opacity and then start pasting it. See that? So it slowly and eventually blends to the whole scene. Okay, let's say you kind of like happy with this. It depends. You have to have an eye for lighting and shadow. Let's say you're kind of happy with this. Now what you can do is you can change this. You can create a vanishing point. You come back to vanishing point on the filter, come back to this view, and then you can export this to an alleyway. Okay, so I'm just going to click this and say alley 2. Right, let it finish. You can see this blue bar there. And once the whole thing reads and finish it off, so what you can do now is practically wait for it to export first. Once it has already export, as you can see, this part, the OK will reappear. At the moment it's not. Why? Maybe because it has hung, or it's still calculating at the back of the hand. Okay, so wait for it. Export back again. Alright, and then you can just cancel this. You can save this. Make sure you save this. Alright, VPE class. Alright, I'll save that as VPE class and I'll say OK. And what do I do next? I will load up my After Effects. So I'm just running, I'm brushing through quite fast. Alright, there's ample of vanishing point tutorials online by itself. Okay, you can have a look at that. And this is, I'm going super layman terms so that you can get the grasp of it, how it's going to work and so on and so forth. Okay, here I'll just create a new project, and this is where the new project is it's been created, and now you just have to import vanishing point. Pick up the vanishing point and straight away you will see all these JPEGs will be created to project on the tunnel that we have already created. So once I create this a VPE, you won't see this really perfect. Why is it is a little bit off, and you can take this rotation of this and you can rotate it back to 0. Okay, and what you can do is you can just drag it over and you can play with this rotation as much as you want, and make sure all of this is properly laid out. It will take you a little bit time to adjust it. Alrighty, okay, this is what we have already brought into After Effects. So once we have already imported our .vpe file, how do you do that? You already know. Go here, back again. I'm just repeating back again. Go and look at import vanishing point.vpe. Okay, once you have done this, what you can do is you can look at this. When you orbit this, sometimes you don't get what is moving and what is really changing the value of the camera, and what needs to be done in order to get this kind of like effect. Okay, so it's like you're running and so on and so forth. Okay, so every time you move your with this orbit tool, so what can you do when you move that orbit tool? You will see value changes on certain areas, like for instance the position by itself. Alright, so here I have adjusted it, okay, accordingly, and now I'm going to animate it so that I'm going to make it as a fake video. So what I'll do is I'll just hit the position. Alright, so every position is calculated with the zoom in. So first thing that I might do, I'll just go for 2 around here, and I'll just end here. Okay, and what I'll do is I will trim this, trim composition area, and I will play with my orbit a little bit around here. Okay, this one totally depends on how you want your whole view to be. So if you're moving forward, which means you have to zoom in. Okay, so if you're moving in, see what happens. Bloop, 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 bloop. Okay, so here maybe you want to change this view a little bit, going down. So from here, and then you want to do that. I mean, you have to play with some logical, something realistic. Okay, so if you have like a first person view, so you have all this drunkard man that is walking around here, so you can play with that. Okay, so if you want, you can on the depth of field, you can crank up the aperture, maybe 1005. Okay, or maybe you can just crank it up or decrease it to 500 maybe, depending, or you can even do about like 150. See which is the best options that you can get. Ugh. Okay, my advice is, if you have a slow machine, don't do this. Alright, don't play with the depth of field on, because it's going to eat up a lot of your memory. Okay, see that? So now it feels like as if it is moving forward, and it kind of like, you know, like a whole video has been taken at this particular spot. Alright, that is one. But as you can see here, this is not perfect. This is not perfect at all. As you can see, the actual image which I have on my alleyway, okay, I'll just pop it up here. This signboard is not properly laid out. It is stretched. In one glance it's fine, but when you move it, see what happens. So it won't give you a really good, it will straight away make it look really horrible. Okay, so straight away people can spot on what is it wrong with here, this whole image, it is a fake thing or not, and so on and so forth. Okay, this one, depending on what you really want to do with your cameras, you can play with your camera settings and so on and so forth. If you want to play with your iris, this is almost approximately close to what would I say, it's more close to a real camera. You can play with all these apertures, iris shape, blah blah blah, and so on and so forth, depending, okay, what you really want. Okay, you will have options here. You'll have a parent and you have a camera. You can rename your camera if you want to. The parent, apparently what happens is, this is the one that the grid is projecting. Whatever image here, it is projected on this grid. Alright, it fakes it out. That's why this parent is there. And do not disturb this, because it is if you disturb any of this, especially the cast shadows or the material options, you will lose the illusion of this point of view. Okay, so with this on, what can you do some more? I can go ahead and do a little bit of lighting adjustment. You can have a light, you can create a light which is a little bit more orangish if you want to. Okay, depending, you create that. You can look at few custom views. Alright, press this, you can crank it up, pull it out a little bit, okay, and then pull this over. Okay, custom view 2, bring it closer, okay, and then maybe you want to move this over, whichever, that gives you a proper look and feel. Okay, you can adjust this accordingly. Right, if you're playing with lightings, just be careful. Okay, all this will come when you are doing your final fine tuning. Okay, you can pull this over, make the distance a little bit more off, like that. So sort of like creates this example. You can add in more lightings if you want to. Of course, if you really can't get this lighting around here in proper, maybe you want to reduce this somewhere around here, not too bright on the back. So if, let's say I duplicate this and I'll bring this over this side and pop it up. Okay, and you have to adjust your with all the effects and so on and so forth to get this nice view. Okay, if this is too strong, maybe you want to have like look at the materials in this here. What you can do is you can go to this material, you can reduce the ambient a little bit. Okay, so see what is this. Alright, so if you want to have like specular intensity, you can reduce the specular intensity. Materials is really important if you're playing with lighting. Okay, I can reduce it so that everything syncs well. Alright, with fake lighting. Okay, and what you can do now is you can also import a little bit of smoke and so on and so forth to make it look like as if this whole place is smoked up. Some sort of thing is happening. Alright, example. Okay, so to fake things you have to be an illusionist. Okay, remember all this ambience, everything has been set up for you. Okay, each one of this will have an ambient or will have the specular intensity, diffuse color, how much you want. If it's too strong, 100%. If you reduce it, it will lose the lighting a little bit but still maintain what it's supposed to look like. You can reduce it more depending on the lighting setups. You don't off any of this. Okay, you want to reduce the ambience, you can reduce it, you can crank it up a little bit here and there, you can reduce the metal look. You just play with the values and see. Okay, materials will give you, for this 3D effect, it will give you a good 3D effect kind of feel. So once you have this example